I haven't made a video about anything negative for quite a while. I don't know if I surround myself with good topics and good games to talk about, but sometimes you just need to vent. And vent, I shall.
We all love someone to hate, it's just human nature. Having a natural target for abuse means we appreciate people like the protagonist a bit more, considering they're nowhere near as bad as other people in the game. I mean, yeah, in most games you're not supposed to sympathise too much with the bad guy, but sometimes you're presented with characters so unlikable that you can't help but wish a slow and painful end for them. Just a quick heads up, if I mention a game I'm probably going to spoil it on this video. And let's not get hated characters mixed up with annoying ones. Most of the time you'll hate a character for what they say or do, while you'll be annoyed with a character because of what they are. Put it this way, people might find Fi from Skyward Sword a bit annoying, but I wouldn't go as far as saying she's a particularly hateable character. You hear that? I said something nice about Skyward Sword. How about you take that rod out, yeah? For the most part, Xenoblade Chronicles is innocent, wholesome fun. There's a couple of character deaths dotted all over the place, but hey, it's a JRPG. You'd be trying pretty hard to get to the end of the game without killing off anyone important. The real shocks come when you reach the latter stages of the game, where your long-term mentor and father figure, Dixon, decides to be a dick. I could try and explain what happens with Xenoblade's plot towards the end, but let's just keep it simple by saying that this guy Dixon, who fought off the bad guys in an epic battle a year before the events of the game, and raised Shulk as his own, suddenly turns against the party just as the long-standing conflict between the people of Bionis and Mechonis seems to be coming to an end. They were even gonna shake on it, but nope, Dixon shoots Shulk in the back, releasing the god that was dwelling inside Shulk and revealing that Dixon is and has always been a disciple of the great god Zanza, and has been secretly plotting against the main cast since the very start, when he rescued Shulk and the Monado from Valak Mountain and trained Shulk up so he could one day use the Monado and ultimately release Zanza. It's a really complicated plan, but you can't say that it didn't work.
You'll probably hate Dixon as a character because of how much he relishes betraying his long-standing friends and colleagues, but he's this far down because of how much this character change suits him. I mean, it's one thing being this grizzled adventurer who goes off to far-off lands and speaks to weird and wonderful people, but being this no-nonsense, no-flowery language antagonist, I think that's a better thing, actually. Some characters you hate for being subtle assholes, really seeing it with this kind of conniving double-crosser who you don't initially suspect to be an asshole, an antagonist, but when they do reveal themselves to be that, it makes sense and you hate them for it. But if you want to do something different, you can do something different. If your surname is Vega, and you're a count.
Aw, bless his little cotton socks. Count Vega didn't try all that hard to be subtle, did he? I mean, the first thing he does is banish Jack and, belatedly, Daxter into the wastelands for being dangerous freaks and leaving them to try and survive away from the safety of the city. Admittedly, they do because they're the protagonists, but he did seem to take a little too much joy in evicting them. So fast forward a bit and Jack meets Damus, the king of a refuge village, who takes Jack in and, here's that word again, becomes somewhat of a father figure for Jack, especially because Jack never knew his father. Eventually you take on a mission with Damus where you blow shit up and smash into things trying to reach the palace ruins. However, things get a little out of hand and Damus gets crushed by your giant buggy. He then dies in Jack's arms, but not before telling Jack to go find his son, who wears this amulet, causing Jack to realise that Damus is his father. At which point Count Vega comes along gloating about Damus's death and explains to Jack that he was the one who separated them when Jack was a child. I mean, fucking hell, you don't have to be enjoying yourself so much. At least he gets hit by a bit of karma when it's revealed later on that the precursors he's been idolising all this time and wanted to join are in fact the same species as Daxter, and only realising all of this just as he's turned into one of them. Good lord, that's satisfying. If you could call Xenoblade Chronicles wholesome fun, Pokemon is frankly as tame as it comes, or at least it is on the surface. Sure, there's a lot going on in the background if you put too much thought into it, but it's a game that promotes this sense of childlike fulfillment and wonder. Which is why in the 5th generation there's a character who fosters a child and fills his head with ideas of Pokemon liberation, only to use both him and his organisation as tools in his own personal goal of dominating the region. Yep, childlike fulfillment.
Pokemon does get criticised occasionally from various forms of media, like the ratio of land to water. But if you are going to learn about criminal organisations, environmental extremism, destroying the world to create a new one, as well as being a shitty parent, Pokemon is maybe the softest way of learning all of that.
So yeah, Getsis is a terrible and self-centered foster father, but what really makes you hate him is how he took the spotlight away from a legitimately interesting anti-hero in the form of N. The concept of enslaving Pokemon to do your bidding is an idea that isn't entirely false if you look into the deeper meaning of Pokemon. It's even often used as an argument for Pokemon teaching children a bad attitude towards animals and nature. So, when the game itself puts forth an antagonist who only wants the best for the Pokemon and makes you think twice about what you're putting your Pokemon through when you're battling with them, it's doubly disappointing when a one-dimensional bad guy leaps out of the shadows and tells us of his true goals, which are far less interesting and relatable than N's. And he hacks in a Hydreigon 10 levels lower than it should be. When will this madness end?
Just quickly going back to what I said in the intro, there is quite a distinctive line between annoying characters and hated characters. You'll find a character annoying through their mannerisms, if they've got like a high-pitched voice, or if they say the same thing over and over and over again. You'll hate a character through their actions, and you know, they can do some pretty bad actions. Let's not forget that annoying characters are reasonably harmless, but very occasionally, an annoying character can actually become a hated character.
Oh, Pokey, or Porky, where did it all go wrong? From a guy who started as a coward with sociopathic tendencies, the classic annoying kid with no friends, before taking a dramatic nosedive off into way more ominous territory, involving cults, attempted human sacrifices, and even a bit of sinister time travelling. This backstabbing, manipulative little shit goes from one atrocity to another, going as far as becoming Gygas' right-hand man and making the final battle of Earthbound a hell of a lot more annoying than if he wasn't there. But we're just getting started because we're yet to even touch Mother 3, and like, holy shit, this is where stuff gets really dark. Where his CV of bad shit that he's done fucking explodes. So, thanks to the time travel in Earthbound, Porky is now immortal, and what do you do when you're immortal? Fuck everybody over, that's what! He creates the Pigmask army, making him indirectly responsible for Hinawa's death, an event that has huge ramifications during the rest of the game. He turns Lucas's younger brother into a Chimera, which is an event that's maybe even more important in Mother 3. And lots of forests get burned down and animals get experimented on, but when you finally confront him, not only does he know PSI attacks, but as he starts losing the fight, he hops in his safe capsule where he can't be harmed, but also can never escape. Now he's doomed to eternity in absolute safety, but in total isolation. You can almost feel sorry for him if he didn't spend the best part of 2 games being a tremendous D-bag. Oh, I'm gonna annoy some people with this one. Hey, I'm in an angry mood, I reckon I can take whatever you gotta throw at me. For me, the character I hate the most in any video game is Joel from The Last of Us. What, you might say, the protagonist of that game that won all those awards? The guy who has his daughter killed in the game's prologue? The guy who fights tooth and nail to keep Ellie alive, a girl who's immune to the infection, so that she can help create a vaccine to save what's left of the human race from the zombie outbreak? The guy who sacrifices so much and so many people just to keep this one girl alive through the game? Yes to these, especially the last one. Because in the final couple of chapters in the game, everything you've worked towards unravels very quickly.
Literally the only thing you're supposed to be doing in The Last of Us is delivering Ellie to a group called the Fireflies, who are trying to make a cure to stop the spread of the infection. Ellie is immune to the infection, so she must hold the key to the cure. Ellie is probably the last hope for humanity.
But at some point, Joel suddenly realizes that the whole make a vaccine from Ellie's conveniently infected brain that hasn't turned her yet is gonna kill her by removing the parasite and reverse engineering a cure. Since Ellie has replaced his former daughter Sarah in his mind, he fucking snaps at the point of any harm coming to her, gunning his way through dozens of soldiers, the head of the Fireflies, and even the doctor as he's about to operate on her. Just like what a real father would do. Wait, hang on. Remember those 20 fucking years in between the prologue and the rest of the game? 20 years of humanity struggling to survive, scientists struggling to find a cure, infected gradually taking over most of the world, leaving entire cities abandoned, and with scientific advancement ground to a standstill? If you had a chance at putting this all right and start to rebuild modern society, surely that's something that just needs to be done. Yes, it's the argument between the importance of the life of one versus the life of millions, And you can perhaps understand why Joel does what he does, but that doesn't make the act of slaughtering dozens of people trying to find a cure for humanity anything other than a brutally selfish one. It reflects well on how his relationship with Ellie grows, even if he flat out lies to her in the last scene in the game, but by the end of the game you realise that you've been journeying across decaying America as a slowly emerging psychopath. A psychopath you have to control, you have to fight back, you have to shoot the doctor operating on Ellie. And do you feel good about it? That you've saved this daughter figure at the cost of dooming humanity? It's not a question of sympathy, it's a question of fucking logic.
This has been RabbidLuigi, and as I was gunning down hordes of potentially innocent people, there was one quote from your friend Bill you meet earlier in the game that ran through my head the entire time. It goes as follows: you know, as bad as those things are, talking about the infective, at least they're predictable. It's the normal people who scare me.
What topic do you want to see on the next top 5? Leave a suggestion in the comments below and follow me on Twitter, or I'll be taking my favourite suggestions and putting them to a vote over there. Thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Hey guys, how we doing? It's a weird topic, hated characters, because angry negative lists are incredibly subjective. So while I'd like for you all to agree with me on this one, the likelihood is that you've got your own views. In which case, feel free to share them. Great to see someone else's perspective on these kind of things. And if you really want to get my attention, Twitter and Facebook are mighty fine ways of doing so. You know, just think about it.